What's up guys, welcome back, Leopazzo Productions. Thank you very much for tuning in. In today's video, we're going to be having a closer look at the Osee Duet 8 ISO. This is an all-in-one live streaming video switcher and recorder. And yes, I'm taking advantage of the isolated recordings for this video right now. It is recording all of my inputs to the SSD. I'm going to get you guys a little bit more familiar with this device, but more specifically in this video, we're going to be having a closer look on all the features that they added for free onto this latest firmware update, the Firmware 2.0. I'm going to be sharing with you guys all of these new features, getting you guys a little bit more familiar with my setup. And if you guys do have any questions throughout the course of this video, obviously just let me know down into the comment section down below, and I'll be happy to help you guys if I can. So first things first, let's just go ahead and get a little bit more familiar with my setup, and then we'll start talking a little bit more about the features that they've added. So let's go ahead and change my input over here, which is my top-down view for my Panasonic GH6. This is connected to the Duet 8 ISO via HDMI on the HDMI input number 2, which you can see right over here at the back of the device, starting off with HDMI input 1, 2, 3, and 4. And these are my 2 HDMI outputs. So starting off over here with the 4 HDMI inputs, as we are looking at HDMI input number 2, which is this view. This is HDMI input number 3, which is also another Panasonic GH6 camera, which is doing the talking headshot. And now let's go ahead to take a look at HDMI input number 1. This is HDMI input number 1, which is coming over here to my right hand side. It's a PTZ camera, which is just basically pointing over here at the back of the Duet so you can see all of the connections. And yes, that reminds me, the Duet 8 ISO does have XLR connections over here. We do actually have 2 of them that's going to allow us to connect our dynamic microphones and our condenser microphones. And we do also have over here at the back as well 2 3.5mm microphone inputs as well that can be assigned to either a line input or even a microphone input. And you can see all of the connections that I have over here. One of them is being the one that's being recorded to the SSD. Coming back to this view, this is the Samsung T5 SSD, which is recording the isolated recordings right now. And you can see that you have the ISO button over here highlighted in red, which is indicating that it is recording all of my inputs to this SSD along with the audio, and therefore now we're going to be able to do some further editing and post-production as I'm going to be taking advantage of for this video. Now you guys are a little bit more familiar with HDMI input number 1, HDMI input number 2, HDMI input number 3, and here we go. This is HDMI input number 4. So I don't normally use this type of an input. This input is actually my output from the Duet 8. So let's come back to this view over here. So I actually took one of my outputs over here, this one right over here, HDMI output. I sent it over here to one of my external camera monitors, which actually has an HDMI input and also has an HDMI output. So let me just go ahead and briefly explain. I wanted to specifically show you this multi-view screen. So I wanted to record this multi-view screen. Why? So you guys can see my setup, and you guys can also see all the menu and settings that we're going to be discussing in a little bit more in detail in regards to the new firmware features that they added. So for me to actually show you guys in a better view, what I did is I took the output from the Duet 8 and I sent it in as an input. And that's exactly what I did over here to be able to record this multi-view over here and to show you guys all of the menu and all of the settings and everything, which we'll talk about a little bit more shortly. So again, HDMI 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, so now let's go ahead and take a look at my next 4 inputs that I have over here connected to inputs number 5, 6, 7, and 8. Starting off with input number 5, coming over here from this PTZ camera. This PTZ camera is now connected to the Duet 8 ISO via SDI. Yes, it is connected via SDI. How did I do that? With this new firmware update. So this new firmware update, one of the major key features that they've added with this new firmware is the fact that now we're going to be able to take advantage of all 8 physical inputs at the same time simultaneously. What does that mean? We can use all 4 HDMIs and all 4 SDIs at the same time in any kind of configuration, which is phenomenal. This has been a request that I've seen many times from different users in the Facebook group, the OC Gostream Deck user Facebook group. If you guys are not part of that group already, I definitely recommend for you guys to join the community. I will leave a link down into the description as well so you guys can join the group and ask any questions screens and share your setup and all that kind of good stuff. So I will definitely say that Osee has been listening to the end users, because I've seen a lot of people ask for this feature to be added, and Osee did it once again with another firmware update as of August, middle of August 2025. Now we're capable of doing this. Fantastic. And we're not done there, guys. Let's go ahead and take a look at my next input. So as we just saw, input number 5, which is connected via SDI. Let's take a look at my next input over here, which is input number 6. And here we go. This is input number 6, which is actually the OBSBOT Tail 2 PTZ camera. And that is positioned actually pretty far at the back of the room over there, and is connected to the Duet 8 ISO, once again via SDI as well. I'm running a 25-foot SDI cable, and it's connected over here at the back of the Duet. And here we are giving you guys a little bit of the behind the scenes, kind of showing you guys my setup. And I actually have the remote control over here, which is on charge. I can just go ahead and unplug it. I can go ahead and zoom out. I can go ahead and zoom in. The quality coming from this OBSBOT Tail 2 camera is actually really impressive, to be honest with you. I'm actually quite happy with it. You can save a bunch of different presets. It has like auto tracking, human tracking, and all that kind of stuff. So I did make a detailed video about this PTZ camera as well, and it does support HDMI and SDI. But in this case, to demonstrate for this video, I'm showing you guys the SDI connection to the Duet 8 ISO. So that is input number 6. Let's take a look at input number 7 over here, and bingo, here we go. Input number 7. This is coming from another one of these PTZ cameras over here onto my left hand side, and it is connected to the Duet 8 ISO via SDI as well. And I also have control of this PTZ camera right over here. For an example, I can go ahead and zoom out, I can zoom in, I can pan and tilt and do all that stuff right over here, adjust the exposure and focus and all of that. So having PTZ cameras being able to connect via SDI and HDMI to the Duet 8 ISO has been actually really nice. So let's take a look at my last input over here, input number 8. Let's go ahead and select it. And here we go, input number 8. And this is actually not an SDI connection. This is actually an NDI connection coming from my PC via NDI tools. And why did I bring this up? Well, because I visited the Osee website, and it lists over here all of these new features that they've added into this new firmware update, and I kind of wanted to just read through them with you guys and kind of talk about them, basically like a PowerPoint for an example. So if I wanted to, I could have had this 8th input be another SDI camera as well, but I actually do not have a 4th SDI camera that's capable of SDI. So I figured, you know what, instead of using the 4th SDI, I'm going to be using the NDI feature to kind of show you guys that we can also use NDI, SRT, RTMP, etc. All of these additional features. For an example, even like a media player playing videos from the SD card or the SSD, and also connecting like webcam. So we're not limited to just the 8 physical inputs, HDMI and SDI. We're also capable of adding other inputs as well, and you guys can see that right over here as I'm using the NDI. So let's come back over here to the NDI, which is coming from my PC. As we talked about, starting off at the top, this new firmware update version 2.0, it basically starts off by talking about the 8 hardware inputs. So now supports 4 HDMI and 4 SDI inputs at the same time, as we talked about. Let's move along to the next one over here, which basically says PGM/PVW Bus Lock. So basically by pressing the FN2 button, the function 2 button, plus the preview button, to either lock or unlock the source and prevent accidental operations. Locked buttons will light in yellow for clear visibility. So let's come back over here, or better yet, let's go to this view right over here so you guys can see. So here is the function 2 button. Okay, so you press the function 2 button, and then you can press any one of these preview buttons. And you might not be able to see it that well over here because of the exposure and brightness of the buttons and everything of my camera settings. But you'll see now that I've just pressed function 2 and I press the preview number 3 input, these are now highlighted in yellow. So what does that mean? Well, let's go ahead and do a few more inputs for an example. So let's go function 4, 5, and 6. So now inputs 3, 4, 5, and 6, because I chose those inputs, whatever I press on the switcher, no matter what I press over here, it's not going to be changing to these inputs. It will not change to any one of these inputs that I basically just locked right now. So why would this be a good feature to use? So let's go ahead and unlock it by pressing the function button. Let's unlock number 3 and let's cut back to number 3. So why would you want to use this feature to lock or unlock these preview or program buses? Well, that is because maybe you want to have somebody monitor and stand by the switcher and operate it while you're maybe kind of busy doing other things, and you basically tell them, okay, well, you know what, I want you to stand by here, I want you to make some cuts, I want you to make some switches on this switcher, and you can lock out those inputs so they don't get displayed by an accident. Maybe you have something very special that you wanted to save later on to the live stream or the recording, or you didn't want to basically reveal any of those inputs maybe till later on or anything like that. You can actually lock them out, so no matter if they're pressing any buttons or incorrect inputs to kind of be displayed on the program, they will not be displayed. So I think that is a nice useful feature. To be honest with you, I didn't really actually think of that feature to something that I would probably want, but here we go, we got it. Somebody requested it, and I kind of feel that it's actually a nice feature that has been added to this new firmware update. So let's go ahead and unlock these. Just going to go ahead and demonstrate. Hold the function button number 2, and you can press the preview button, and you can see now that they are unlocked, and I can switch to any one of these inputs just like that via the program, or I can go ahead and make a cut anytime by just simply pressing the button over here, or the auto, or even using the T-bar handle if I like as well. So overall, really nice. Let's go back over here to input number 8, which is the NDI input, and let's take a look at this next feature. So next over here, the third point, it says flexible multi-view configuration. So 2 multi-view layouts will independently save user configured window sources. So what does that mean? Well, if you're not aware, Osee does have a PC software for Windows and for Mac that's going to allow us to wirelessly control the Duet 8 ISO, and along with the other video switchers that they have, the Duets and the Duet kits, etc., that's going to allow us to control the device wirelessly. So if you do not want to control the device directly onto the switcher itself, you can do it no problem onto your PC, which is fantastic. But specifically, this firmware update is going to basically give us 2 different configurable, custom configurable multi-view layouts that it's going to be able to save, that we can basically just kind of position any type of source or whatever sources that we want in any type of window. So therefore, it can just kind of be laid out to the way that we want it to be laid out, a little bit more customized. So that is definitely a nice feature that they've added. Let's go back over here to input number 8, and let's take a look at the next point over here. Number 4, audio panning. So added panning effect for all audio channels. Perfect. So for me to go ahead and demonstrate that, I'm going to come over here to my multi-view screen, and we're going to click on menu, and we're going to come over here to audio mixer. Perfect. Let's scroll down. See all of these options over here. Look at this. We have all of these options here as far as audio. So right now I'm using microphone 1, and it is enabled, and it's an XLR connection for microphone 1, and it is a dynamic microphone which is not supplying phantom power. But if you needed phantom power, you would just switch this over to mic type to condenser. But as far as the panning, which is right over here, so we can go ahead and select this, and we can go ahead and either pan to the right, or we can go ahead and pan to the left for an example. And now we have the panning option as well incorporated into each one of these audio sources over here, along with the fader, the preamp, the delay, the audio effects, the low cut, noise gate, compressor, equalizer enable. We got equalizer low, middle, high, etc. So all of these features were already there. We got this on another firmware update maybe a few months ago, all of these audio effects, but in this firmware update, they've specifically added the panning feature for all of our microphone inputs or audio inputs. All right, let's come back over here to the input number 8, the NDI input. So let's take a look over here. After the audio panning, we have still image. So what did they do for the still image? So updated still image index from 0 to 31. That's what it used to be. Now it reads 1 to 32. So added a factory default images for still images 1 and 2. So let me go ahead and explain it a little bit more. Let's come back over here to input number 4. Let's come over here to menu. And we're going to scroll down over here to media player. So media player, we got media player 1, media player 2, and this is where we got the still upload. So this is what they mean by the still index. Before, it used to start off at 0 instead of starting off at 1. So it's just a small kind of correction that they've made. Instead of it saying from 0 to 31, now it says 1 to 32. No big deal. It's nothing really that major. It's just simple little kind of correction. Maybe people prefer the numbers to start at 1 versus starting at 0. So whatever, it is what it is. So right now, for an example, you can see that it won't let me go any more left for an example to go back to 0, but it will bring me up all the way up to 32. So I can basically import from the SD card or the SSD 32 different images, PNG, JPEG. So how do you actually do that? Well, let's go ahead and load one right now. So let's say we wanted to load one too. Let's go to as high as I don't have one loaded right now. Let's go, I got 20. So you can see all the way up to 20. So I got 1 to 20 images loaded, but number 22 or 21, sorry, I do not have an image loaded. So let's go still index 21. I want to load something here, and I'm going to come down here to still upload, and let's select an image that I have saved from the SD card. Let's use this one right over here. So let's go ahead and select it, and bingo, now I've just loaded that still image to still index number 21. All right, perfect. So now let's go to still number 22. As you see, I don't have anything loaded. Let's find an image over here that I wanted to use. And let's go ahead and maybe select, this one looks pretty good. This one that I've created for the NAB show Las Vegas when I was there with Osee. Let's go ahead and select that one, and bingo, now I have that still image over there loaded, number 22. So let's come over here back to menu. Let's back out of this, and we'll use media player number 2 and index. What index do I want to use? I want to use, let's say 22. That's what I just loaded. Let's go ahead and select it. Perfect. And now it's being displayed over here. And let's go ahead and select it. And there we go. There is the still image that I just loaded. Here's the other still image that I had in media player number 1. Here's media player number 2. So taking a look over here at the next point, it says streaming and recording bitrate display. So now we have granular setting of streaming and recording bit rates in the menu. So let's come over here to input number 4 to show you guys my multi-view. We're going to select on menu, and we're going to come down to, first, we'll go to streaming. And underneath streaming, we have stream quality. Let's select stream quality, and you can see now we do have an option underneath the quality for user defined. So that basically means we can specifically select our bit rate ourselves, specifically what we want our stream to be. And from my understanding, we can actually adjust this on the fly while we're actually streaming. So for an example, if you're live streaming and maybe you have some frames per second, you have some loss, or the quality, or it's kind of stuttering, or you're having some kind of issues maybe because of your internet connection, for an example, you can kind of lower this yourself on the fly and adjust the bit rate yourself, which is actually really nice, specifically to the number that you want. So what did we have before this user defined bit rate? Well, we actually had these settings over here. We had high, we also had medium, we had low. Okay, so you can see with the low is 4.5, with the medium is 6, with the high is 9, but now we got user defined, which we can go ahead and select that and come down over here, and we can bring this down all the way down to 1 megabits per second, all the way up to 50 megabits per second, and we have 0.5 increments, as you guys can see, so we can kind of really fine tune it. So nice granular control over here. And from my understanding on the PC software, we actually have even more fine-tuned control. We can adjust it, instead of 0.5 increments, we can actually adjust it from 0.1 increments to really get it exactly where you want. But I think the 0.5 over here on the device itself is going to be very helpful. So for now, let's just leave it for an example at maybe 20 megabits per second. We'll leave it like that. So that is as far as the stream quality. We have the control of the bit rate. Now let's back out of here, and we're going to go to record, and the same thing over here for the record quality. As you guys can see, now we have the option for user defined, and we can adjust the bit rate over here. Right now it's not going to allow me to do it because I'm actually recording to the SSD right now, the isolated recordings, but it's going to be the same idea. We're going to be able to basically fine tune the bit rate from 0.5 increments all the way from 1 all the way up to 50, so we can really adjust the quality of the bit rate rate of a recording as well. And previously, what did we have? The same thing. We had low, medium, and high. All right, so let's back out of here. Let's go back to input number 8. And what do we have over here? So after the streaming and recording bitrate, we have added language. So what language did they add? They added Chinese language support. So you can kind of configure that when you first boot up your device. Next over here, we have Tally system support. So they've added a new communication protocol for Tally systems. So we're going to be able to get more details and information from their website. It's going to allow us to download details on their official website about this new communication protocol for the Tally systems. And they do have some general bug fixes there as well that you can see that are listed towards the bottom. So coming over here to the menu, we're going to scroll down to inputs. Let's scroll down a little bit more so you can see the options we have available. So the first one that you want to come to is input mode. This is going to allow you to take advantage of the 8 physical inputs on how you want to configure it. So what we're going to have a look over here as the different input modes that we have available with this new firmware update. So let's go ahead and select it. Right now you can see that I'm currently using for this video, I have the 8 ports HDMI first. That is the input mode that I'm using for this video. So you can see that it's basically explaining it over here to the right hand side. So inputs 1, 2, 3, and 4, those are going to be my 4 HDMI inputs as I showed you in this video explaining my setup. Next over here we have inputs 5 and 6. Those can be a combination of an SDI input, a stream input, or a player basically playing videos off the SD card or the SSD. And inputs 7 and 8, same idea. They can either be SDI inputs, they can be a stream input, or you can use a USB webcam as well. So let's look and see what other options we have available. I'm going to scroll to the left over here so you can see now the next input mode is labeled as 8 ports and it is called interleaved, which basically shows us over here input number 1 will be an SDI, input 2 will be HDMI, input 3 SDI, input 4 HDMI. So it's basically just kind of going back and forth. And we have over here inputs 5 and 6, same idea. They can either be SDI or HDMI along with the stream and a player basically playing videos from that SD card. And input 7 and 8, same idea. They can either be a combination of SDI or HDMI, a stream input, or the webcam. Let's come over here to the next option for the input mode, which is labeled as 4 ports, SDI or HDMI. So this is what it is set to by default when you first do that firmware update, and that's why I configured it to the other option over here, which is 8 ports HDMI first. That's just kind of what works best for me. But let's look at what we have over here by default when you first do that firmware update. It is labeled as 4 ports SDI or HDMI, and you can see inputs number 1, 2, 3, and 4. You can either use SDI or HDMI on those 4 inputs. And inputs number 5 and 6, same idea. They can either be a stream input or a player 1 and player 2. And inputs 7 and 8, same idea. They can also be a stream input or a USB webcam 1 and 2. So that is option 1. This is option 2, which we looked at, interleaved. This is option 3, which is labeled as 8 ports HDMI first, the one that I'm using for this video. And finally, the last input mode, which is labeled as 8 ports SDI first. So same idea, we have inputs 1, 2, 3, and 4, which are going to be your 4 SDI inputs. And inputs 5 and 6, we got HDMI that it can be a stream input or the player. And 7 and 8, it can also be an HDMI, a stream input, or your webcams. So it all depends on how you want to configure your setup, but those are the different input modes that we have available. So once you configured your input mode that you want to use, you can come over here to source map, and this is actually going to tell the device what input do you actually want to use out of those options available. So you can see inputs 1 to 4 are listed as HDMI, inputs 5 and 6 and 7 are listed as SDI because that's what I have connected. And finally over here, input number 8, I have it configured to be an NDI. Well guys, hopefully now you're a little bit more familiar with the Duet 8 ISO and more specifically all of the features that they've added over here in this new firmware update. If you guys do have any questions or comments, let me know down into the comment section down below. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video and I'm looking forward to seeing you guys onto the next video. Till next time, peace.